It is great to be here with you. Terrific to be here. This just in. Thank you. Nice knuckleball there you gave me. Excellent. So I'm Brett Jarvis. This is Happy Luther.
Happy Luther.
We are here talking about a new delivery framework that we want to talk about for the professional services industry. A few months ago, Sri and I were talking through how there's really no MEDDPIC for services. And MEDDPIC is a framework to qualify sales opportunities, to make sure that those opportunities are set up in a way for success so that they can become closed deals. And we thought we need something like that for professional services as well. So we're going to talk through a framework for that we want to build on with you in the community. And we'll make an impassioned plea at the end for people to join us in this effort. So, Brett Jarvis, I lead customer success and experience at Rocket Lane. I've been here about 15 months and delighted to be here. And Happy is somebody that I worked with both at Salesforce and at LinkedIn. He led services for the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. He led services for LinkedIn. He's done other things as well. And so I'll turn it over to Happy for a moment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Happy Luther. I'm actually now this sounds really cool, founder and CEO. That sounds so cool, isn't it? For a company called Zenkar. It's my company. I'm the only employee. But
janitor also.
Yeah,
got
right?
Janitor on the list. Yeah.
I have had a great run, 30 plus years with some of the best companies on the planet. I started off at IBM. They quickly realized I'm just not a very good project manager or consultant. They put me into sales. So MEDDPIC is near and dear to my heart. Did that for about 7 years. But in any case, I am now on my own. I'm doing a lot of stuff with companies like Rocket Lane, where I'm helping with org design. I've been at the C-level as a CCO, a CRO for about 10 years. And so I'm helping with things like org design, looking at operational excellence, go to market. I think I've heard this in the last couple of days. There are companies out here that are thinking about like services sales and all those things that go with it. So that's what I do. Started a year ago, as I said earlier, having a lot of fun. Awesome to be up here and happy to be a part of the Rocket Lane family.
Excellent. Thank you. Great to be working with Happy again. So let's talk through why this matters. We've talked a lot over the past couple of days about a lot of different things, a lot about AI as well, which we will touch on, of course. But we've also talked a lot about the processes and the challenges that we all see and have. And a lot of what has resonated with people is the same challenges that people have. And when it comes down to it, software, as somebody mentioned, is about efficiency. It's about a forcing function. It's about helping people to do things differently, better. But when it comes to it, it's really the process that matters. It's the execution that matters. And the software is just the instantiation of that. And so most projects fail. When they fail because of, the expectation setting hasn't worked right from the start. We don't have executive alignment. The stakeholders aren't engaged. There are risks that we didn't identify, et cetera. And so we actually, from Deloitte and TSIA and PMI, we got a few different stats, including that most projects end up failing. The 28% success rate down at the bottom right. And, it's due to some of the things that I mentioned. So, poor scoping to begin with, not understanding fully what it is that we're trying to accomplish, different objectives, people having different objectives from them. Scope creep, either in part due to the poor scoping to begin with, or to changing strategies or changing approaches that the team has with whom you're working. Poor communication, ineffective stakeholder engagement, et cetera. These are some of the reasons why things get out of whack. They move forward. I think somebody said it brilliantly that, how do projects fail, day by day, right? One day at a time. And these are some of the things that make that happen. So we thought through, like I was saying, we lack an industry-wide execution standard. And we thought, well, we should put this together. We're working together with all these people who come from Propel, whether you're users of our software or not, and let's put together an approach that we can all think through, a framework that will help us to work through these inefficient handoffs. Kate Brady talked a lot about the challenges of handoffs today, and we've all chuckled when we talk about the materials coming from sales, for us. No offense, just stating facts. But the misaligned expectations, poor governance in general, and people not wanting to put that time and effort at the start to make sure that we're going to have good governance because they think everything's going to go smoothly, but then it doesn't, and then we run into problems. So how do we do all this, and how do we make a playbook, a framework for all of this? And so we are currently calling this the Rocket Lane Way, but as we make this more of an industry thing, we're open to whatever we end up deciding to call it. But we want to have through what we will refer to as the Rocket Lane Way for the next 20 minutes, 24 minutes and 8 seconds. We will we want to talk about the Rocket Lane Way, which helps to ensure alignment, cover the things that we're talking about between internal teams and customer expectations, predict, mitigate project risk, and drive not just the success of the project, hey, we're done with the project, but what Kate also was talking about earlier today, having that North Star of why are we doing the project to begin with? What is it that we want the project, what we've put together to then help people do and succeed and make sure that happens as well. All right.
So with that backdrop, so what happened was Brett reached out to me and he said, hey, we have this idea. I think at that time it was really kind of a vision, really more than anything else. And so I got on the phone with Sri and with Brett and kind of came up with these things here. We said, okay, help me understand, what are you really trying to get out of this Rocket Lane Way? Sounds really cool. And so they said, well, the very first thing they said is it's got to be inspired by MEDDPIC. And so being a former sales guy, I was like, okay, I understand MEDDPIC. We use it all the time. And so now I started getting an idea of what they were trying to do is to really kind of put some structure and methodology, but really looking at things like, is there a project alignment, a stakeholder alignment, things that really had very little, because I'm like, why are they talking to me? I'm not a technical implementation guy. That was the IBM days that they got me out of that role. And so when I really kind of dug into it, it made a lot of sense to look at all the I call them the bookends, right? The things that happen, kind of the handoffs from the beginning. You go to the next slide. And look at what happens at the very beginning, which is the handoffs. We talked about this quite a bit, actually, in a couple of sessions today. I know Brian talked about it in others, but that handoff when you go from sales into PS, and then on the other end of the bookend, which is really when we transition from sales, PS rather, to a CS and support. So I started getting a good idea from these guys. Okay, now I can kind of gauge what they're talking about, kind of where it fits in the customer life cycle. And now let's start to look at really what we want to do in this. And so that was the backdrop for where the Rocket Lane Way started, at least when I entered in the picture.
Yeah. No, thank you. And we're talking to you because you've led professional services organizations. Yeah. You've been, don't diminish the reason why we came to you. So we've broken this down into two main components. The first we call Ignite, which Happy will talk about, and that's looking at governance and the governance through these transitions. And the second is something we refer to as metrics, and that's similar to MEDDPIC being, sales qualification would be project qualification. Are we lined up properly? Have we checked the right boxes to line up properly to move forward with the project? Okay?
Yeah, so the first thing, as any good consultant would do, is kind of understand current state, right? So what I did is I talked to a bunch of Rocket Lane employees, just to understand their perspective. I talked to actually a few of you that are in the room, customers and partners. And I asked kind of two basic questions. One was, why do projects fail? A lot of what you talked about, Brett, right? Which is things that go off the rails. And then why do you succeed? Tell me what great looks like. So that was the backdrop in terms of what came to be. And it did about 8 or 9, I think, interviews, almost 10 interviews, and put a bunch of stuff in. I'm like, this chat GPT thing, I'm just not feeling what is this all about? So I put it in there, and I'm like, God, man, I'm just not liking this. I'm like, well, duh. Why don't I connect what we just did and all the notes to Rocket Lane? And guess what? Came up with Ignite, which, right? Where's the marketing people there? So anyway, Ignite is what we landed on. Again, I think you said this earlier. It's still kind of going through iterations. We'll see if it sticks or if we want to do something more fun. But really, the very first thing was initiate, right? That transition from sales into PS, that was super critical because I've been in that situation where you're trying to